Hey guys, Tony Rowe, back with another game. Battling against kaltin1968. So presumably... Oh, come on with this stuff. Just someone play e5, damn it. Ugh, God. Yeah, shocker. Okay. I had this position in another one of my games. I don't want to talk about that game right now. Yeah, not my finest. Not my finest. Okay, but I'm going to repeat this setup because I think it's a very reasonable way to play. This guy's just taking the wind out of my sails. I mean, I shouldn't be upset at all because e5 is very much the critical test of Alekhines, you know. But I still enjoy those positions. So I'm gonna go a5 and just stop b4. It's really black's dream for white to go e takes d5 in these positions. Sometimes... Should I go a4? I'm going to do it. Clamp down on the b3 square. Stop b4 shenanigans for good. I will have to babysit this pawn probably, but I'm not super concerned about that. A lot of moves are good here, but I'm just going to go h6 so I can go bishop e6 without allowing this, or now bishop g5. Is there any reason why I'd want to take? Probably not. Okay, queen d7. They'll go king h2. Where do I put my pieces? One of the tricky things about playing these positions is sometimes it's not that easy to find ways to improve. Like black and white just kind of shuffle around like idiots for you know, moves and moves on end. And if he goes queen c2, I'll go back to... I'll play rook a8. Maybe I'll play knight a5. I don't... knight a5 hangs an e-pawn. So I want to play knight a5 to b3, or knight a5 and then d takes e4, d takes e4, either knight c4 or bishop c4, but I have to do something about the e-pawn first. Maybe actually... Yeah, well... Okay, I'm not sure. When he goes knight f1, maybe bishop e6, h3, I should just go queen d6. I didn't want to go queen d6 earlier because with the knight on d2, he maybe can take on d5, and then go knight c4 and attack this pawn over and over and over again. But what the hell am I talking about? Oh, but yeah, but now that he plays knight f1 and he can't really do that, I should probably go queen d6. So that's cool. Now that he goes knight h4, I wonder if I can go knight a5. He clearly wants to go f4. I don't think I should be super worried about that. I think I can just leave it. So if knight a5, f4 takes... He can take here, but I'll take on d3, and I think that's got to be good for me, no? So if knight a5, f4, d takes, let's say d takes, bishop c4. Yeah, that seems fine. If he takes here, hitting the e-pawn, I can take with the knight, which Uncovers the bishop. Guarding e5, so that should be good. Oh shit, I used the light theme. I know people don't like to use the light theme, and I know people don't like to use those pieces, so I change it when I'm recording, but I forgot for these last two games. I apologize for that. That was dumb. Okay, I'm going to take. And I have to decide whether or not I want to go bishop c4 and knock the queen somewhere, or if I just want to go, like, maybe knight b3, rook a to d1 now, though. So I'm thinking about playing bishop b3 to completely dominate the d-file and then going knight c4. But do I want to go bishop c4 first? I'm not sure. If bishop c4, queen f3, he has the lingering threat of bishop h6, queen f6. So if bishop c4 first, queen f3, yeah, it seems like I'm one move short of what I really want. Because bishop b3 immediately, knight d2 hits my bishop and guards against knight c4. And here, he can play rook a to d1. So what do I do? I don't know. If queen d3, I think white will go queen f3. And I don't see anything super exciting there. I'm taking a little bit of time because this feels like a critical position. I was a little bit lazy last move when I decided to take, and maybe now I wish I like prepared it for one more move or something. But that's all right. You know what? Bishop b3, knight d2, maybe just bishop c2. And I can snake the bishop around while still guarding against rook a to d1. Maybe that's the way. I'm gonna try that. I'm not sure. I am not totally sure what I'm doing here. Yeah, the one problem with the King's Indian attack honestly for both colors is everyone's pieces are kind of just like bunched up on all kinds of weird squares, and I feel like the person who wins is the person who makes more sense of their crap pieces. So here, rook c1, bishop d3. Yeah, I'm just going to go bishop c2. Like, you know, but when these pieces are not like harmoniously placed, these bishops are always pretty bad until usually both players want to play bishop back to f8 or f1. It's just the positions are very odd. So what to do from here? Maybe queen c6. Ganging up on the e-pawn, and I think I'd also like to go rook d3 and rook f2, or rook e to d8. I don't like that my queen is leading the charge here. Maybe bishop d3 and queen d5. b5 is also possible, tickling the b4 pawn. Okay, so he sees a cheapo, and he wants to play it. I don't blame him. I can go queen c6 anyway. Yeah, let's do that. Protecting f6, so bishop h6 no longer works. I do have to keep an eye on that, though. So sometimes I think it helps for me to make like mental notes. So like, okay, now I know my queen is guarding f6. I need to be cognizant of that fact. I guess I'm going bishop d3. I don't love that I have to play bishop d3 because I had some vague notions that perhaps I was going to be able to sack an exchange on d2 to win this e4 pawn at some point, but that's not happening now. But that's all right. So now rook c to d1 is possible. I might play rook d6. If rook c to d1, I'm going to go probably rook d6. It's kind of a nice multi-purpose move, planning to both guard the knight on f6 against this threat and double. I want to play like rook c to d1, queen b5, attacking b2, but I'm a little bit nervous about bishop f6, of course. I just noted that if I move my queen, bishop f6 is possible. But you know what's funny? Bishop f6 is not a threat here. Bishop h6, because takes on d2. Sometimes I'm a lazy calculator like that, but I never want my opponents to have any fun in chess. I want to have all the fun. So if I see even like a pseudo threat, it's just like my first instinct is to just stop the threat. Which in general is not a good way to go, I think. Interesting. Well, that stops queen b5. I can tell you that. Maybe white has the long plan of knight b1 to c3 to d5. Somehow I feel like I shouldn't worry about that much. It hangs the e4 pawn at least. But again, what to do? Maybe b6. Which maybe prepares knight b7 to c5. I'd like to go bishop f8 and sort of just maybe control all of these squares nicely. And I'd like to go rook d6, but I don't want him to harass my business with c5. So I'm thinking about that. Knight f to d7 also looks enticing. But that undefends his bishop. Takes the pressure off e4 too. Okay, I'm just going to go b6 for the time being. If he goes c5 now, which is possible, I'll push past with b5. And I think the insertion of pawn to c5 and this pawn to b5 helps me. Protecting my a4 pawn, clamping down on these light squares. And, you know, the pawn on c5 I think is just a long-term weakness. But we'll see. Maybe that's not true. Well, there goes my plan of rook d6. But now maybe I have the new plan of going bishop f8, knight b7, and just trying to round up this guy. So rook c3. He wants a discovered attack on this bishop. I see you. Unfortunately, fortunately for me, bishop h6 doesn't really do anything. So maybe I can just continue with rook d7. Rook d7, bishop h6, rook takes d3, just bishop takes d2. Yeah. Rook d7. Is that the best move, though? Knight c4. Knight takes c4. B takes c4, maybe? Looking to gang up on this backward b pawn. Bishop f1. Ah, you can't go bishop f1 because he hangs this pawn. Knight c4 looks enticing as well. I'm just hitting b2, and I'm hitting all these things. I feel like he's forced to take it. And then b takes. Cementing this bishop. And the key is that bishop f1 is impossible. It's not easy for him to organize the defense of the e-pawn, actually. Maybe he must go bishop c1. Guard against everything. Ah, but that hangs the c5 pawn. I'm going to try this. Looks interesting. It jacks up my pawn structure, but I feel like this move highlights his two big weaknesses in this position. Trying to eliminate the defender of this e4 square and isolate this c5 pawn from one of its key defenders. And it opens up this backward b pawn too, which is another potential weakness. So, you know, to get stuff, you got to give stuff, to paraphrase Robert James Fisher. So now e4 is loose. c5 is kind of loose. You know what's kind of a fun move? Rook d4. Rook d4, bishop d4, e d4, giving me these two massive central pawns. Opening up this bishop. Probably winning e4. Worth considering. Hitting this rook, you'd have to go back. I'd have pretty good comp. Not necessary at all. c5 hangs, but worth considering. I like playing positional exchange sacrifices very much. So last game I tried to play a knight sacrifice just because it looks super fun. I'm all about playing moves that are maybe not the best move but are interesting, just to make for interesting viewing and for interesting games. Today will not be an exception if rook d4 looks moderately playable. But okay, if I can win this, I'll do that instead. Probably white should go bishop c1 and just hang the c-pawn. I don't think he can afford to hang the e-pawn here. One problem for white is that this knight on h4 has just done nothing. Like, it's just... He wanted to go f4 at some stage, I think. But it just never happened, and now with the queen on f3, this knight can't go back, and this g6 pawn restricts the knight from being able to do really much of anything useful on h4, so... I mean, my bishop on g7 is just as bad as his bishop on g2, but I feel like, you know, this minor piece is better than this minor piece, and this minor piece is better than this minor piece, so... And his rook on c3, you're kind of like, what's that thing? If queen c5, bishop h6, queen f6, bishop d2 wins an exchange. So probably I should just take. There's no pin business with queen d3. I don't think so. Queen c5, bishop h6, queen here, bishop d2, knight g6. Fg6, queen g6. Well, let's just go rook d4. The c5 pawn isn't going anywhere. That's for sure. I'd rather just, now that I look at it, gang up on the e4 pawn. If I can win the e4 pawn and unleash this f pawn to move forward, I think this game is going to crumble for white very quickly. So excuse me. Getting some caffeine. I just had a delicious Chipotle burrito bowl. I'm a double chicken man. I like the double serving of meat. I don't think one serving of chicken is enough chicken. It's not like a full chicken breast, you know. It's probably like a scoop of Chipotle chicken's probably like a third, half of a chicken breast, I would guess. I like to go double chicken. I like guac. I get a little bit of the fajitas. I don't like too many of the fajitas. I think Chipotle does not cut the fajitas correctly to be used in the bowl. I think they cut it into like the strips. Not I don't know if they call it a julienne when it's that big. You know, julienne typically looks like matchsticks, but it's like a slice. Like if you took a pepper and you just sliced down it longitudinally. You know, it's too big. Like, you can't scoop that with a fork. You know, you get, like, a teeter-totter situation and it falls off. That's not right at all. So, you know, like, I don't get that many because I find them irritating. And I get tomato salsa, corn salsa, lettuce, guac, cheese, brown rice. I try to keep it moderately healthy. Sometimes I get a burrito. The actual tortillas are quite large at Chipotle, so they end up being like 300 to 400 calories, and they're like 40 carbs, which is a lot. So I don't get them as much as I want to, only when I'm feeling particularly frisky that day. I really like playing against the King's Indian attack as black. I mean, I get moderately irritated when people don't play 2e5 against the Alekhine's defense, but in general, with this against the King's Indian attack of almost all kinds, I play g6, bishop g7, put the pawn on e5, play d5, and I have an extremely good score with this system. In some cases the pawn is on c5 and not on c7. You know, c5, e5, d5 with knight c6 behind, but against the Alekhine, usually the pawn ends up staying on c7 because I don't have much time to play c5. But for whatever reason, I don't know if it just stylistically I find it very easy to play those positions or what, but generally I just crush when I play against the King's Indian attack. So here, I'm guessing the idea is that after knight e4, I'm just like all pinned up. I don't think that should be good enough. Knight e4. Okay, I mean, there's nothing there, right? Knight e4, rook d3. Is that possible? cd3, bishop. Okay, so that's his idea. Knight e4, bishop d3, rook d3 does appear to work. So if bishop e4, bishop e4, rook e4. Actually, bishop e4, knight e4 is just crushing, isn't it? Hitting the rook, and then I just take on c5, or I just play f5. Bishop d3, or bishop e4 rather. Yeah, this looks good. I'm going to play this. After bishop e4, rook e4, queen d2 is forced, rook e1, queen e1, queen c5. I'm just up 2 pawns. That's also possible. But I don't necessarily want to trade this rook for this rook. My rook on d4 is very good, and it's protecting this pawn on c4. So I think just taking with the knight and hitting this rook, maybe forcing rook c2, and then I can play knight c5 or... so he doesn't want to trade. I mean, that's fine also. That makes some sense. Oh, was knight d5 good there? Damn. Could have been. So he wants to go bishop e3, clearly. So queen c5 is maybe not advisable because of bishop e3. Bishop e6, perhaps. That hangs the e5 pawn, maybe. Thinking about knight d7, bishop e3, knight takes c5, just giving up the exchange. It looks pretty much just crushing. Oh my god, 32 seconds. If he goes here, I think just taking here is good. Bishop d4, e4, rook e8, queen e8. I'm hitting his rook. I have these 2 massive central pawns. Knight d3 is coming. Yeah, this is just very bad for white. Take that thing. Probably just go queen e2. Completely dominate the position. This knight, again, is just honestly the worst piece ever. Going for practical chances. I think just this. You know what, I'm just going to go c6. Protect the bishop, not let him take on c7. He gets a check, but my position's pretty tight. Very compact around the king. f7 is protected by this bishop. c6. This bishop's a monster. Just completely controlling everything. Probably, you know, some threat to eliminate the knight and then play... Okay, I'm just going to play d3. I don't see any actual threats. Making a second lady. Oh, I missed just winning his queen. Didn't miss it a second time. Dummy. Oh, and my opponent left. Oh, no, they didn't. Trying to flag me. That's not right. It's not right at all. Mate in a few. Making the queen. Queen g3 mate coming at you. All right, so we get the win. Let's take a look. I like looking at the time usage. This is how all of my games look. Opening theory, pretty solid. Massive thinks, get into time trouble, and then no time left to finish out the game. All right, so let's see how I played. I think I played pretty well that game. Not to toot my own horn, but toot. I like to go d5 first against this sort of intended King's Indian attack. The reason is that if I go e5 immediately, white can go f4, and I find this position a little bit annoying. Like, black is supposed to take here, but after bishop f4, I feel like, even though this is kind of a crappy sort of King's Gambit where white can't put the bishop on c4 anymore, there's something about it that just doesn't feel right to me as black. But if you go d5 first, e5 knight d7 sort of loses a tempo over something like knight c3, d5 here, because if white wants to go d4 after already playing d3, he loses a move. So, yeah, I think I played all right. So if you go d3, they're sort of pot committed to going knight d2. Of course, they don't want to allow, some kind of takes or winning of the pawn, queen trade, etc. So they almost always go knight d2, and then you can go e5, and f4 is no longer really possible because the knight on d2 blocks the bishop. So g3 is fine. Knight f3 is more typical. g3, maybe I can get away with c5 here, though. I should think about that for next time. And now if knight f3, I can go knight c6, and I get this c pawn on c5, which I think is an advantage. Now if here, I don't know if g6 is possible now. It seems a little slow, but maybe I can just go bishop e7 or something like that. But I like the setup that I chose in the game also. I think it's a good one. And black does not have to go a5, but I sort of just like grabbing all the space that I can. This is kind of one way to think about this position is that it's a little bit like a reversed Philidor, where if you look at it this way, black has played like, okay, pseudo e4, e5, knight f3, d3, right? Which would be like a Philidor, and it's like a hand-ham for white. So, okay, I don't know if this makes any sense at all, but okay, if we do this and we play out the Philidor, it looks like this. And black's most popular way to play is putting the knight on d7. And white's normal setup sort of involves knight c3, bishop c4, and black normally is going to go... Okay, whose turn is it? So like if this normally happens, black normally goes c6, and white normally meets that with a4, because at some point c6, b4, deflecting from the e-pawn is possible. And so in the game, this is sort of like a reverse Philidor where white has decided to play g3 and bishop g2. In this case, it's g6 and bishop g7, but it's the same idea. And similar to the Philidor, where black goes for c6 and b5, in this case, white might possibly go c3, b4, b5, and try and irritate this e-pawn. So I like going a5 just to... And in general, I like taking up space. Like, I would prefer to have, the space. I think a3 is probably... It feels a little inaccurate. A lot of times in the Philidor analog, black will go b6. In this case, b3 for white, such that he can go a3 and b4 without allowing a4. Queen c2, maybe bishop b2, something like that. But okay. I think these weak light squares, I think maybe were a little bit irritating for white in the game. I don't know if h6 is forced here, but I like playing h6 in this position because I like putting my bishop on e6 to overprotect the d5 square. And like I said, a lot of people who first start playing the King's Indian attack are tempted to go ed at some point and then like something like knight c4 or knight e4. But the problem with all of these is that you're acquiescing to an inferior pawn structure as white. You're leaving black with this fourth rank or fifth rank from black's perspective e-pawn versus these two pawns, and black just has a little bit more space. And it usually gets worse because black can play f5 and gain more space and take away this square from your knight or any of other pieces. And then, yeah, it just looks like this d-pawn is backward. F5, bishop e6, queen d7, rook d8, and all of a sudden this pawn starts looking a little loose. So, and that's kind of, again, similar to this Philidor analog. It's not that common these days for black to go e takes d4 and then go into this pawn structure because it's similar. Like at some point black might play c6 and he's just got a little less space and a backward d-pawn. So, okay. Bishop e6, h3. So white, I think, sensed that I was going to go queen d7, and he was worried about bishop h3, trading off his bishop. I don't know why. So he goes h3. So such that he can protect h3 with king h2 on the next move. It also just keeps my pieces out of g4, so it makes some sense. But in general, I already think white has lost his entire opening advantage. I think this position is just clearly better for black. Black has more central control, I think more naturally developed pieces. It's not clear, I think, what some of these pieces are going to be doing. So that's one of the nice things about putting the bishop on g7. I think it just black's pieces... White puts his knight on d2, and it's hard for him to find a useful function for it. It blocks the bishop, so he has to put it on e1, and then it sort of fights for e3 with this dark squared bishop, and so white's pieces get a little bit bungled up. But with this bishop on g7 and this knight on c6, my bishop comes out to e6, and all of my pieces find very sort of harmonious, natural, well-centralized squares, and I just have more space. So I'm not surprised computers think it's about minus 0.8. I think that sounds about right. I think knight h4 is not very good also. I think it's a little bit dubious. Concretely, it gives up the attack on the e-pawn and allows me to start this operation with this knight into these weak squares. I couldn't do that before because the knight is attacking, so I think for that reason it's not very good, but also I don't think e4 or f4 is a very feasible plan for white. Like if f4 here, I was planning to just take and go bishop c4, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's not good. Well, in this case, it's just, yeah, there's this, which is very bad. So, but yeah, f4 just in general is not particularly promising. Even if I don't go knight a5, I mean, I don't know, if I just like waste a move. f4, white doesn't really have any threats. f5 is well defended, so that doesn't really work, and I'd be very happy if he centralized my knight with fe. And so, yeah, I don't know. If I just leave the tension, I don't think f4 really does much. So bishop c4. I didn't love this. Yeah, if bishop d3, he can't go here yet because... oh, well, I thought e4 was hanging, but it's clearly not. And I don't have this because the rook defends it, so I clearly just don't understand. So let's see. Rook e6 here. Whoops. That move's slightly worse than queen f3. Knight c4. Okay, I don't get it. That's not a line I would ever play. Bishop c4 here. Queen b5. So allowing the... God dang it. Allowing this. Takes. Always with this rook move. Goes back. Queen b2. Yeah, I mean, this looks good for black too. Rook d3 and queen c3 is up next, or knight b3, queen takes a3. I didn't feel the need to go into these concrete complications when my position was just sort of positionally, I think, better. Like, I mean, I don't see how white really does much of anything after I play this bishop c2 idea and just kind of sit on him. But here, though, I do wish I played queen b5. I think this move is clearly better because I just saw that bishop... I looked this far and I was like, nope, I don't want this. But okay, the knight is hanging on d2 in all kinds of different ways, so... Yeah, probably I should have gone queen b5. Yeah, I'm not sure about c4 either. I think c5, b5, I'm just clearly better. If rook c3, I probably would have just went knight b7. And maybe bishop f8, knight c5, etc. I think positionally I'm still much, much better. Yeah, after this, I mean, I think white is just going to regret having this pawn not on c3 and really not on, c2. c3 itself weakens d3 quite a bit, but that's a normal part of the king's Indian attack. Yeah, this pawn on c5 just sticks out, and I think I did a good job just isolating it from the pack with... Yeah, I can take here, but I didn't see any reason to mess around with this, even though bishop d2 is possible. I was worried about this. Oh, okay, yeah, it works. So what do I play there instead? Ah, rook d6 first, and after queen e3, then bishop d2. Okay. Yeah, I didn't see this move. Just flick in rook d6 to get the queen out of there and guard g6, and then bishop d2. Nice Wiesenzug there. Missed it. Dang. That would have been a nice finish, but... Okay, but anyway, rook d4 I think is just crushing. Yeah, and I saw right after that I missed knight d5. Because after I played bishop d5, I realized that I wanted to play bishop e6 and knight d5, and so then I started thinking about knight d5 immediately, which is just completely crushing. Just, I think, takes here. But both my pieces are hit after this. Oh, yeah, I can just move the bishop now. And he's got no squares. That's funny. Yeah, I need to work on my... I need to be a little bit more concrete as a player, I think. But I am very happy about this exchange sacrifice, too. I mean, you can barely call it a sacrifice, honestly, because this position... Well, okay, of course. He should go rook c2, so knight d3 doesn't win an exchange, but this position is just completely overwhelming for black. I mean, these two pawns and these bishops and this knight on c5 are very much worth the exchange. And of course, I'm not really down any material. I have 2 pawns for the exchange anyway, so didn't take much for me to play knight d7, even in time trouble. I mean, bishop e3 and takes all this is, you know, just very natural. And after this, okay, the game is just completely over. I don't have to do much of anything here to win. I just push my pawn. I missed winning a queen for a hot second, but it really doesn't matter. So yeah, I think a nice controlled positional game, a good representative game for how you can play against various King's Indian attack setups with this g6, e5, d5 setup. Easy to play for black. You sort of just develop your pieces to natural squares. You grab space on the queen side with a5, and you sort of pray for e takes d5, knight takes d5. If they do that, you can gain space with f5 at some point, bishop e6 to f7. And if they don't, then usually you develop your pieces towards the open files, and I think at some point probably you want to try to use this weakened d6 square, d3 square, or these weak squares with d takes e4 at some point in the open d file. So hope you guys like it. I'm alone by myself this weekend, so probably there'll be a flurry of rapid games and other videos to make up for the lack of content in the last couple days. So, all right, I will see you guys again soon. Bye.